What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Nickel City Rush Hour Sunday edition, where we'll be going through the NFL and giving our rankings, power rankings. I know it's early, Keith, but I want to think, at this time of the year, it's a struggle to find content, to create content, unique things. I think we've done a pretty good job doing that in this off season.
Yeah.
But something caught my eye this week, and that was Mina Kimes. Now, of course, she'll catch a lot of our eyes. She's a fantastic analyst for ESPN. And she's been doing this Power Hour show with celebrities like Kyle Brandt, some former NFL players. And they've been going through this series where she'll present the person with two teams as they go through the rankings, and that other person has to say which team they feel is better for that slot and why. We're going to put a little spin on it. And again, Mina, if you see this, we're not, thank you for the ideas. Hate to copy anyone at this time of year, but it was so fun. I thought, let's put a little Nickel City Mafia spin on it.
Yeah.
So we're going to change it up a little bit. And by the way, Keith, I'm going to give you this moment right now because I want you to, this could be you. If this is you, this is your chance. You're on camera with Mina Kimes right now. How cool would that be for you?
That'd be great.
She's much better to look at than I am, but I'm still gonna try to do my best. And look at her with the dolphins, and that is on her show. So check out that show. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Anyhow, what we're gonna do differently. First of all, we're live, and hope to see who's out there on the channel. I haven't seen. I see the Trek reviewer came out super early as I was posting this, and he said, "Hey yo," and I see Jessica. Thanks for joining us, Jessica. This should be fun for you. I'll be interested to get your takes. Mad Chatter, always good to see you. Philly's good. So a couple of ways we're going to do this differently. Obviously, we're live, so we're going to have some interaction with the folks in the chat. We're also only going to do top 20. We're not going to do 32, just for time reasons. I mean, when you're doing stuff live, we always run over the hour here on the Rush Hour, so we want to keep it under that. And honestly, who cares after the top 20? I'm just joking. I'm joking, Keith. Fan bases care.
Yeah.
But what we are going to do after we lock in the top 20, I'm going to ask Keith, who are two teams outside the top 20 that he thinks, could surprise people, be a sleeper, and move up the power rankings quickly in the season if things go right. So again, on Mina's show, they were bringing up two teams at a time. We're going to do three teams at a time, which I think makes it a little different, a little more fun. And we're going to add something called the power play move. So I have a lot of influence on how these rankings are going to go. So does Keith. But Keith, if he sees something going amiss, or he feels like a team is falling too far down the board, he could use the power play move. He can say, Mike, power play move, I'm going to use it right now. This team, you're letting them slide too far down the board. We're going to bring that team on for one of the selections and go from there. He can only use it one time. And since he is a Dolphins fan, he cannot use it on his Dolphins. If it had been somebody else, we wouldn't let them use it on their team either. So this should be fun. Keith, how you doing? Thanks for filling in. By the way, real quick, Jake Podger still bonding with family time, had a new baby boy. Jake, we miss you. We'll see you soon. I know he's going to be back in a couple, 2 to 3 weeks, but having, bonding time is extremely important. And then we heard Brett's going to have a baby boy. Got a lot of new family members joining the mafia out here. I know that's not what you want to hear, Keith, but I'm loving it. We're getting a lot of new family members here.
My neighbor, who's coincidentally a Dolphins fan, he's having a kid as well. So we'll be adding a member to the Dolphins fan base as well. So it's kind of evening out a little bit.
Uh-oh. Jessica, how's this going to work out? My neighbor, I think it's a neighbor, married into a Patriots family in Rochester on Sunday. Oh, my niece married into a Patriots family in Rochester on Sunday. Ooh, Jessica, what are the odds of that succeeding, that relationship lasting a long time? All the best. Congratulations. All right, Keith, this is going to be fun. And, let's get this kicked off. First of all, how are you doing? Thanks again for joining me.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for having me on, Mike. So you presented me with this idea earlier on the week, and I watched the Mina Kimes and Kyle Brandt episode. such a fun idea. This is going to be a fun show, and I appreciate you having me on, Mike.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. Good to see you out there, Weston. He says the new Revolutionary War there. I guess for the Patriots. Um, so let's get into this, Keith. So let's go. Let's bring up the first three. I think no surprise here, but let me bring this up real quick. And we're going to use the tier maker site. Honestly, I think this works out pretty well. That way, I don't have to write things down and try to keep track. I know Mina Kimes used a little whiteboard. She's much better at it than me, and I got a lot going on here. So we're going to use the tier maker here. But for the first spot, KC, San Francisco, or Baltimore, who takes that top spot for you?
KC. They're the champs, and they're the champs until somebody unseats them. So I think that they got a little worse on defense this offseason by losing L'Jarius Sneed to the Titans, but they got a little bit better on offensively by getting Xavier Worthy in the draft. Such a great pickup. Dude was tailor-made for that big arm that Mahomes has. Sorry to say it, Mike. He was also tailor-made for Josh Allen's big arm, too. I don't know why the Bills would trade that pick to the Chiefs so they could take a guy who's going to be terrorizing them for the next decade or so. But, it's the Chiefs. The Chiefs are the kings until proven otherwise.
Yeah.
Also, they have the best quarterback coach combination in the NFL. Until that happens, they're going to be mega contenders,
Yeah, that coaching, the coaching staff is always a big boost for them. They do have some struggles at the tackle. I mean, they had Jawan Taylor struggled at right tackle last year. He's back. Donovan Smith, who they brought in last season in the offseason, didn't pan out the way they wanted him to.
Yeah.
And so they have Wanya Morris, who was a rookie, I believe, last year. He did pretty well when he came in. And then they also drafted BYU's Kingsley Suamatai.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that plays out at left tackle. But definitely the bookends, they seem to have, ever since the Super Bowl lost to the Bucs, when they've been revamping the bookends, it seems year after year. To me, that's really their only weakness. And again, they seem to be able to survive that. They struggle early on. So, and then they get it together. So,
they also proved last year that they can win with defense rather than winning with this dominant offense that we're used to the Chiefs having. So that's another feather in their cap that just makes them all the more dangerous, all the more just it's infuriating how great they've been. And Weston out there, I know he's a Chiefs fan. But exactly, Weston. I agree. I agree. You're not being a homer by saying that.
Yes, I agree. All right, well, let me move down here. I'm going to add another team. Again, we're going 3 at a time here for the number 2 spot. Right now, it's San Francisco, Baltimore. And I got to say, man, I struggled with this. This is we're going to upset some fan bases. I know we are. But I think this one, nobody will give me any grief. The only thing that I don't like about this Tier Up app is that you have to it doesn't let you drag it all the way to the top in one swoop. Mm-hmm. So bear with me. Here we go, folks. Who's Mike going to take? We're going to bring in the Lions, Keith.
All right.
Bring in the Lions, moving them up the board here, and we'll make them one of your 3. So, again, a team, to me, should have made the Super Bowl last year. A coaching failure, I don't know what you want to call it, but that team was in command of that game and let it slip. But here you go, number 2 spot, San Francisco, Baltimore, and the Lions.
All right, I'm going to go with San Francisco here, Mike, and I'm just going to go with the top 2 teams from each conference from last year, the Super Bowl representatives from last year's season. I think the 49ers this is probably their last season of dominance, I think. It's starting to get to the point where they're going to have to pay Brock Purdy. Brandon Ayuk's not too happy. I think 49ers are probably going to hold on to him this season. Maybe I know he's pushing hard to go to Washington for some reason, but I think he's going to stick around for one more season. Fact of the matter is the 49ers won't be able to pay everybody after this season, and it's going to get harder and harder for them to stay on top, especially once they pay Brock Purdy. So I think they have one more season of being one of these elite teams before it starts to get harder to keep all their players. And then they're going to have to, go through the draft and go through the bargain bin and free agency, like a lot of teams do.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you here. I mean, they do struggle a little bit on the with pass protection.
Yeah.
I think they had a safety last year who was hurt. Big safety for them. Is it Talanoa?
Yeah.
Funga? I might be butchering his name, but after he went down in week 11, they seemed to really struggle. The defense that was. So I don't know. I wouldn't have been mad at you for going one of these other two teams, honestly, Baltimore or the Lions.
I considered one of those two other teams. I did. It also doesn't help that Dre Greenlaw. He tore his Achilles in the Super Bowl last year against the Chiefs, running onto the field no less. And they're going to be without him for a decent chunk of the season, I would think, because it happened in the Super Bowl. So he's going to be coming back from that.
Yeah, which tells me he probably won't be back.
Yeah. So, when I thought about this, obviously you told me this idea, and I've been thinking about this ever since you told me on Friday. I've been thinking about where I was going to go with my rankings. I knew I was going to go KC 1, and I thought I was going to go 49ers 2. But there is one of those two other teams I thought about going to on this. And we'll see who you bring up next. But the 49ers aren't a lock, in my opinion, to come out of the NFC this year, whereas last year they felt like much more of a lock. The Lions kind of came from behind a little bit, and like you said, they really could have won that NFC Championship game. So, we'll see what happens this season. I think the 49ers are going to be a really good team again this year, and then we'll see what happens to them going forward. John Lynch is going to have some work to do after this season.
All right, Jessica likes the Rams for number 2.
Rams, huh?
Oh boy, Jessica, you'll probably be disappointed or I'm going to bring him into the picture unless Keith drops a power play move on me. But they'll be there. Spoiler alert, they'll be there in the top 20, but nowhere near the second round. But
I'm not ready to bring the Rams up for a power play just yet.
It's the second round, not nowhere near the second position, but interesting. Must be a big Matt Stafford fan. Of course, they had great offensive weapons.
Yeah.
Puka Nacua just out of nowhere, and Matt Stafford just a star.
Yeah.
So and they,
they lost Aaron Donald.
They lost Aaron Donald, but they got a rookie that played stellar last year.
Yeah.
Trying to think of his name here. Let me find him real quick.
He was a late pick for them too.
Yeah. It was Kobe Turner.
Yes.
So he stepped in, and dude, he had 12 sacks.
Mm-hmm.
So losing Donald, it's always a big deal to lose him, but having that youngster come in might cushion the the pain a little bit there after losing Aaron. But yeah, I don't blame you, Jessica. They had a really good bounce back. They're well coached, one of the best coached, I think, in the NFL. So good call there, Jessica. All right, who am I going to go to next here? Let's see.
Yeah, this is where it starts to get interesting, Mike.
So again, I watched a couple of Mina Kimes shows with her guest, and of course, I'm putting my own spin on it. I use different sources. I'm a big Vegas guy. Check out who they have. There was a couple different places that I used, and then kind of looking at my own spin on things as well. So this one, I mean, we'll see. We'll see what you think. So here we go. Let's bring it up here. And round and round they go here. Who's Mike going to pull in? It is going to be, let's see here, the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Burrow.
Okay.
Again, big question mark. Sort of like, he's kind of like that big question mark for the Bengals, like Aaron Rodgers is, although Aaron Rodgers is a bigger one. But, Joe has struggled to be available, and, but when he's there, I mean, they still have their two-headed monster, and they drafted a nice rookie who fell to the third round. Let me bring up his name real quick. Let's see here. And the reason I bring him up here. So they lost is it Tyler Boyd, right?
Yes.
Boyd moved on,
Joe Mixon moved
and
on.
yep,
Signed Zach
and
Moss to replace him.
yeah. So Jermaine
Yep.
Burton was a first round talent who fell to the third round. So this is a perfect opportunity for them with them losing Tyler Boyd. This gentleman could have a nice year. Now I am concerned here with Zach Moss, former Buffalo Bill running back, had a nice year, his best
Yeah.
year in Indy last year. So he's in the backfield. To me, that's a little concerning. But again, it's Joe Burrow. The sources I used had the Bengals ranked pretty highly here. So let me throw it to you for Keith. Ravens, Lions, Bengals at the number 3 spot.
Well, I think this is a little high for the Bengals. I'll be honest with you there because, and I'll get more into the Bengals when I do select them. But when Joe Burrow was healthy, and I put that in air quotes because from training camp on, he sprained his calf in training camp and he wasn't 100% the entire season. But the Bengals didn't look great. They were losing the teams that they shouldn't have been losing to. They got blown out by the Browns. They lost to the Ravens pretty big. So they're a team. I think it's a little high for them. So for me, it's between the Ravens and the Lions, and I'm gonna go with the Lions here, Mike. I
Interesting.
think I think uh, I think the Lions showed a lot last year. I love their offensive line. I love their coach and Dan Campbell, who was the interim coach for my Miami Dolphins way back when. And I like the mentality with which they play. I think Jared Goff got paid this all season. They have Amon-Ra St. Brown. They have Jameson Williams, David Montgomery, and Jameer Gibbs at running back. They have great weapons, and they have a defense that's, Aiden Hutchinson. They have guys on defense that are starting to come together too. This is a really strong team, and right now, to me, they're the team that could challenge San Francisco for the NFC Championship this year.
Yeah, I don't disagree. The Ravens, I see Weston out there. Yeah, the Ravens lost a couple key players on defense. Patrick Queen,
Yeah,
great linebacker, Javon Clowney, and safety Geno Stone. They actually lost 15 free agents this
yeah.
year in the
They lost their
offseason,
entire backfield. Now they got Derrick Henry back, but they
they
lost their entire backfield.
well, yeah, but they got Derrick Henry. They didn't get him back. They got Derrick Henry.
Yeah,
They signed a big deal there,
yeah,
which is interesting. He's still, he's getting up there in age, but he still performed at a high level last year. And my concern here with Ravens, so I think I totally agree with you on that. The Ravens also, outside of Zay Flowers, second-year guy who looked very promising, I think he'll continue to ascend. I think they have some concerns at wide receiver as
yeah,
well. So we know they've been mostly a running team. It's going to be interesting with Derrick Henry. Oh, I mean, I don't know. I just feel like teams are going to be able to focus on they're going to basically take the run away and make him throw. I mean, that's the book, right? Make
yeah.
Lamar throw the ball. So I
And
don't disagree with you there, my friend. Although some of our counterparts here on the show might be a little upset. But let's see, where am I moving next? Oh boy. Okay. I know I'm moving next. Honestly, I almost brought this team in earlier here.
didn't want to seem like a homer.
Didn't want to seem like a homer, but you know where I'm going. And hey, if you
I
have
do.
any problems with this
I
pick,
do not.
go talk to Mina Kimes because she has the Bills at number 5, and love her for that. She really thinks the losses are a little overrated with the older players that we had. People are just hyping that up. She thinks it's being overhyped. She says Josh Allen, again, we all know this, but I'm just repeating what she said. Josh Allen is the number 2 quarterback in the league.
Yep.
Yeah, let's see what you got going here. Number 4, my friend.
This
Getting
one's tough.
interesting.
This one's tough, Mike. These 3 teams all have a legitimate claim to say we can unseat the Chiefs as the top team in the AFC. All 3 of these teams have legitimate Super Bowl aspirations this season. For me, I actually like the Bills here. I think the Bills are the team that can unseat Kansas City. Uh, now, it does pain me to say that. I'll say that, but I think I agree with Mina Kimes. I think that what the Bills have lost this off season, everybody's making so much of them losing Stephon Diggs at the wideout position. That's addition by subtraction at this point. I think there were certain times when Josh Allen was force feeding Stephon Diggs targets when maybe he shouldn't have been. Now you have Dalton Kincaid, who's an ascending tight end. You drafted Keon Coleman, you brought in Curtis Samuel. And towards the end of the season, the Bills were more and more of a running team. So as long as James Cook stays healthy, and they also drafted a running back who's going to be a nice complement to James
Ray
Cook.
Davis. Yeah,
Ray Davis. He's going to be a nice complement to James Cook. So I think what you have with the Bills is you just have a team that's kind of getting a little younger and getting a near toxic personality out of the locker room. I think Stephon Diggs, his whole persona, his whole act kind of wore a little thin on that locker room. The demise of the Buffalo Bills has been greatly overstated, in my opinion. And again, I had them winning the AFC East again this season, and I think that they're going to surprise some people who are down on them for seemingly no reason.
Yeah, totally agree. I actually did a video with Sean of talking about that. So if you haven't watched that, check it out. All right, here we're moving into the number 5 spot right now.
Number 5, yeah.
And let's see here. Let me take a look at my list. And again, I could change my mind here, but based on this list, again, I wanted to be a little different. And teams that are on the move. And this is a game that I'm looking forward to, the Bills playing. Main who I'm going to go to. But round and round we go. And I am going with the Houston Texans, bringing them up on the board here.
Okay. The Houston Texans.
Yes, sir. Steph Diggs goes there. They bring in Joe Mixon.
Mm-hmm.
That offense is stacked.
They are. So give me the Ravens here, Mike. Like we said, they lost their backfield. They lost J.K. Dobbins. They lost Gus Edwards, but they brought in Derrick Henry, who's been probably, he's probably been the best running back in the NFL over the past, 7 or 8 years. I think there's a little bit of gas, left in that tank. I think, he played really well for the Titans last year, and it's not his fault that the Titans had like a bottom 5 offensive line. So he played really well for them. He's going to the Ravens. The Ravens are a stellar organization from top to bottom. I love the way they're run. I love their coach. I love their GM. I love the way they just do things in Baltimore. I wish the Dolphins would model their own organization after what the Ravens do. Lamar Jackson, obviously a game changer, the reigning MVP. We did a show a couple of weeks ago where we compared Lamar Jackson to Josh Allen. I took Josh Allen over Lamar Jackson, as I'm doing in this show. You really can't go wrong with either. And as long as Lamar Jackson's healthy, the Ravens have a chance to win. I put the Bills above the Ravens because I think the Bills have performed better in the postseason, and the Ravens have Lamar Jackson's had his worst games in the postseason. He had his worst game last year, against the Chiefs. So I like the Ravens, just not as much as the other two teams in the AFC. I have above them.
All right. Well, you haven't used the power play move yet, so it's going to be interesting. It's a very important move to make. Need to, be strategical with it.
If you don't, so I don't know who you're going to bring up in this 6th slot, but it could be time because I'm not ready to choose either of these two teams yet.
Okay. All right. It'll be interesting. Let me just recap here. Jessica, like you brought that up on the screen. She liked the Rams for number 2. She likes the Bills at number 3, okay. Ravens at number 4, and she had the
5 is the Niners.
The 49ers falling to number 5.
Jessica, Jessica,
Yeah.
can I ask why you have the Niners below the Rams? Why do you have the Niners so far down? They didn't really lose much this offseason.
Yeah. That's an interesting, good question there. But let's bring up Weston's because he likes the Eagles above the Ravens and the Bengals with the addition of Barkley and still got a potent offense. So funny that you should say that because, yes, they are next
That'd be
on
your
the
next choice, huh?
board. Yes, they are. So let's see here. Let me find them. There they are. Bring them up the board here. Hope we have no web browser crashing or anything like that. All right, number 6 spot. We got the Bengals, the Texans, and the Eagles.
All right. I'm going to use a power play here, Mike.
Oh boy, here we go.
Because I don't love any of these 3 teams. If you wouldn't mind scrolling to the bottom.
Sure.
I like the Green Bay Packers in this slot.
Okay. Interesting enough, I had the Packers next. They're going to be pulled in. So the way this works is we're going to bring in a 4th team for that selection. Now, again, it doesn't mean he has to use them here, but maybe, he's strategically planning for them to be in the 7th spot and he wanted to get them on the board because there's no guarantee that I was going to bring them up. But here we go. We got the Bengals, Texans, Eagles, Packers.
I will take the Packers.
All right.
I like the Packers here. And I'm going to get more into my thoughts on the Eagles in a little bit. But for right now, I loved what Jordan Love did last year. I loved there was actually a throw he made in the preseason where he perfectly layered this ball over the linebacker right in front of the safety. And I thought, did the Packers seriously just go, just get another franchise quarterback? They go from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers to another franchise quarterback in Jordan Love. I think they did. He looked really good last year, and he looked better and better as the season went on. Now, they lost Aaron Jones, but they got back Josh Jacobs, who's a younger, less injury-prone version of Aaron Jones. They still have a really good offensive line, a really nice defense, and they have a trio of young wide receivers that are just going to continue to grow around Jordan Love. This is a team that I think people are still sleeping on for some reason, even though they blew out the Cowboys in the wild card round last year.
Yeah.
People are still sleeping on the Green Bay Packers, and they really shouldn't be.
Oh,
They're going to be right there with the Lions all season for that NFC North crown.
Yeah, that's why, I've seen some people still talking Dallas over Green Bay, even though Green Bay blew them out. No, this is the reason why I had Green Bay next here. So that's a good pick. I don't blame you whatsoever on that one. They also added one of the top free agents this year, safety, Xavier McKinney, who led all safeties in PFF last year. So a nice addition to the defensive side of the ball. And like you said, Jordan Love just took it to a next level towards the end of the season. So I expect to see more of that. So good choice there. So that leaves you now with 3 teams you're not really in love with. And by the way, Jessica said, let's see, she had the Lions at number 6.
Okay.
And she said, to answer your question, Keith, I think the Eagles coach. Wait. No, I think she answered the other one. Oh, Rams have owned the 49ers.
Yes, but they've lost to teams that they shouldn't have as well. Whereas the 49ers have been pretty consistently stellar. You talk about the Eagles there. The 49ers broke that Eagles team last year. The Eagles were flying high, and then they met the 49ers, and the 49ers blew them out. And the Eagles weren't the same team after that. I agree with you. I think the Eagles coach might have lost that locker room, which is why I'm not taking the Eagles here. I'm going with the Cincinnati Bengals here.
All right.
Now, the Cincinnati Bengals, I've already alluded to it. Like, they weren't, and Weston did point out, they're always on top there. The Bengals are always hard to start the season,
the
first 4 or 5 games. Yes, I agree. They are. But the problem is, Weston, that's the last time I've seen the Bengals at full strength. That's the last time I've seen the Bengals with Joe Burrow, with their defense. They lost Joe Mixon. They got Zach Moss. I think that's a bit of a downgrade. And I just looked at their depth chart. They don't have much behind Zach Moss. Nothing that really inspires confidence in me. They still have T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, but T. Higgins is unhappy. And I took the Bengals here. And now I'm talking crap about them, but I do like them, and I love Joe Burrow. I love his attitude. He is this generation's Joe Montana. He is Joe Cool. No moment is too big for him. So he's coming back, and as long as the Bengals have Joe Burrow, they have a shot. But that's why I have them probably a little further down than most people do, because I didn't love what I saw from them last year.
Yeah, Vegas odds maker had them at the number 5 spot, believe it or not.
Okay.
So I think
All
this is a good spot for them. I really do. Let me move. This is where I'm throwing a wrench in things a little bit. Throwing a wrench in things. By the way, I want to make sure. Can you let the people know we did not pay you at all $1 or more to have the Buffalo Bills at number 4? Can you just put that out there?
Oh yeah, you didn't pay me anything, and I mean, I wouldn't accept a bribe to put the Bills above any other team. It pained me as much as it pains any of you who aren't Bills fans out there.
Jessica, you're gonna love this one. This is throwing a wrench, and I did not receive money for this pick, but I'll state my reason why. And again, trying to be a little different here. PFF believes this is the 3rd best roster in the NFL. Big question marks, but they are loaded. If those question mark hits, who knows? You know what I'm talking about.
I know.
And Anthony's going to be happy with me. I did not do this for Anthony, but again, trying to be a little different. I looked at 3 different sources, and while the Jets were not where I'm bringing them in quite yet, I mean, the Jets were a little bit lower. I don't know. If you look at that roster, they're loaded. So here you go. Here you go, Keith.
Give me the Jets here, Mike.
Okay.
I'll be honest. Give me the Jets. Wow. They are loaded. And I've said it the past 2 seasons, they were competent quarterback play away from being contenders in the AFC. They have the defense. They have the skill position players. They brought in Mike Williams this offseason. If Mike Williams stays healthy, the 1-2 punch of Garrett Wilson and Mike Williams is as good as you're going to find in the NFL. Yes, I am bald. I shave it regularly. But yeah, no, Mike Williams and Garrett Wilson, as good of a 1-2 punch as you're going to find in the NFL. Breece Hall, as good of a running back as you're going to find in the NFL. If Aaron Rodgers is competent, if Aaron Rodgers is decent for the New York Jets, which is like the baseline that you can expect from Aaron Rodgers, the Jets are a scary team to go up against, especially in December when they have that great defensive line, that revamped offensive line where they signed Tyron Smith this offseason. If Tyron Smith stays healthy, that offensive line looks pretty darn good. And then they drafted Olu out of Penn State in the 1st round. Just so much to like about this team, so much to like that I hate it because I can't stand the Jets. I don't want to put them here.
Yeah, like last year, their offensive line struggles were there, and you mentioned they draft Olu, and guess what? He's probably going to be sitting on the bench behind the 2 bookends that they have.
Yeah,
and so they have Morgan Moses that they picked up in the offseason and Tyron Smith. Yeah. So it's nice to have some depth. They took one of the top offensive tackles off the board.
Yep.
And so nice to have that depth, which is, like I said, with Rodgers coming back, they're going to need to protect him. He's not as agile as he used to be.
No,
gets rid of the ball quickly. But
they had more problems than Aaron Rodgers last year too. Like you mentioned, their offensive line. Their offensive line was very, very injured last year to the point where they're starting practice squad guys by the end of the season. Don't love their coaching. I don't love Nathaniel Hackett, and I don't love Robert Saleh as a head coach. I think he's much better as defensive coordinator, but the talent on this team, just the pure raw talent on this team is absolutely undeniable, and it makes the Jets a very scary team.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and if you look at, so let me just go and let you know what Mina, when we were watching it with Kyle Brandt had the Jets at, let me give you that update real quick. Had the Jets at number 11. So we're bringing them a little early, not too. But
Yeah,
again, it just goes to, do you believe what's on paper? Looking at that roster on
right.
paper, it looks scary. We all know. I know I've made fun of them. I'm like 7 wins, 4 wins. What makes you think you're going to jump up? But again, it's a huge question mark. So I don't blame you for the pick. I'm actually surprised. I thought I was throwing a wrench there. I'm surprised you went with it. So we did not
Well,
plan that.
I mean, honestly, Mike, that's more of an indictment on the Texans and the Eagles than it is. Well, I do like the Jets' talent, but I don't love the Texans as much as most people like them. And the Eagles, I think there's very real reasons why I don't like the Eagles, and I'll get into that in a little bit because the Eagles are going to be coming off the board soon. So are the Texans.
All right. All right. So, I might pivot here only
Okay.
because I respect Jessica and her opinions a lot.
Okay.
And I had 3 other teams ahead of this team, but I'm going to bring them up because she had them so high on her
Yeah.
charts. And that is, we're going to go with the Rams.
Okay.
There we go. Texans, Eagles, Rams at number 9.
Okay. Jessica, I'm sorry. I think this is still a little high for the Rams. I'll take the Texans here. I will take the
Okay.
Texans here. I think CJ Stroud is going to be a very good quarterback in the NFL. That being said, I think he's due for a sophomore slump. He made throws last year that I thought that shouldn't have been a throw. That's not a throw he should have made. He made decisions last year where I thought a veteran quarterback wouldn't have made that decision. He led kind of a charmed life last year, and I don't see him repeating that. Now, the talent there is undeniable. They got Stephon Diggs. They have Will Anderson coming off the edge. They signed Joe Mixon in the offseason. I understand all that. I just think the Texans are due for a little bit of a regression. And I think people who are, saying, oh, the Texans are going to challenge the Chiefs or the Bills, let's pump the brakes on that a little bit and see how they react to not surprising teams. Because the Texans were a bad team for a while now. And then they came in last year and they kind of surprised a bunch of people. Let's see what happens when people are looking at them as contenders. Let's see what happens when teams have tape on CJ Stroud. Then we'll see what this Texans team's really made of. I think they're going to regress a little bit. I'm not even convinced they're going to win the division, the AFC South. You didn't put them up here yet, so I had to take the Texans, but I'm not even convinced they're going to win the AFC South this season.
Interesting. Well, like I said, like you had already mentioned, Diggs, Joe Mixon, their wide receiver, it's a candy store. It's like you're walking into a candy store. And then Joe Mixon, of course, he's up there in age, but I think it's a nice veteran leadership to bring into the backfield. Derek Stingley, who had he was their first round. He was the first corner taken off the board a couple of years ago, had really struggled in his rookie season, had a phenomenal bounce back year last year.
Yeah.
And I think he'll see more of that this year. So he'll be huge on the defensive side. They also signed offensive tackle Blake Fisher in the draft.
Yep.
So again, a lot. And I think we had
left tackle, who for my money is the best left tackle in the NFL right now.
Yeah, and I think we had Cody on our show, I think last week, and I believe he said he thinks they're a little overrated. Jessica was as well saying that. He has concerns on the defensive side of the ball, more so than the offensive side. But we'll see. So I think I agree with you where you got him, but of course I'm kind of having an influence. Like I'm locking you in with those 3 teams, making it a little tough for you. Now,
well, the Texans and the Eagles have been on the board for a little while now. So
yes. Now I would ask you, if you would have had another power move option, would you have used it yet? again. So you've already used your first one, but would you have used another one? Is there a team you think right now is sliding down the board too far?
Yes, I do. There is a
Okay, well,
team.
don't tell me who it is. Let's be a little bit surprised here. All right, so this would have been the next team up, but Jessica, you made me pivot, and I don't disagree with you. So we're going to bring in the Cowboys,
Okay.
Dallas Cowboys. Let's go, America's team. So they say. I didn't get the vote. I don't know about you. I always say this. My dad and I, go way back and we're like, who voted to make them America's team? The Buffalo Bills were the red, white, and blue. We should be America's team.
Well,
But anyhow,
why there was a hole in the old Texans, the old Cowboy Stadium, right?
why?
Well, my father's a Cowboys fan. He told me this from when I was.
And where's the hole? You said there's a hole?
There was a hole
Oh, in the top?
in the old stadium.
Yeah.
There was a hole in the top, and my dad always said it's so God can watch his favorite team play.
I actually got to, this is before I got into my read. I was in my early days of my IT, and I got to go out to Dallas, and I got to tour the old stadium. I got to be on the 50-yard line with where those greats were. It was fantastic. Unfortunately, there was a stranger I met. I didn't have a camera. I didn't even think I was going to do it that day, but someone told me, hey, they're doing tours. I'm like, shoot, I'll be there. I go there, and some guy was kind enough to take pictures, and he sent them to me as well. He mailed them. He was using like one of those, throwaway cameras you buy at the drugstore, and I didn't think I'd get them. Sure enough, he sends them to me, and I'll be damned if I didn't lose those. I'm a little upset about that. But it was cool to be on that star, let me just say. All right, at number 10, we got two NFC East teams here, and the Rams.
Okay. I still think this is too high for the Rams. I'm sorry, Jessica. I'm torn between the Cowboys and the Eagles. Which team do I see winning the NFC East this year? Because I don't think the Giants are going to win it, and I don't think the Commanders are going to win it. Which team do I see winning the NFC East this year? And for me, it's even money. I don't know who. But I'm going to go with the Cowboys here.
All right.
I'm going to go with the Cowboys.
God's favorite team, according to your father.
Yes. Now, with the Cowboys, Jerry Jones is trying something. He's trying something here that I've never really seen him do before. I've never seen him try this before. And this is either him being a fool or he's playing 3D chess. And Jerry Jones has always been very blatant with the things that he does. His first act as Cowboys owner was firing Tom Landry. So, that just tells you what kind of owner Jerry Jones has been. He has his quarterback playing on the last year of his deal, and he has his coach playing on the last year of his deal. I think it's supposed to be some sort of motivation. Now, Dak Prescott's going to get paid next offseason no matter what. Mike McCarthy, he is firmly on the hot seat. After the Cowboys got blown out by the Packers in the wild card round last year, I thought McCarthy was dead man walking. I really thought he was going to get fired. But Jones is going to run it back for one more year. And to make matters worse, the Cowboys have really done nothing this offseason. They're going to get Trayvon Diggs back at the cornerback position. Yep. They brought Zeke back. CD Lamb is not happy with his contract. He's talking about holding out potentially. There's discord in Dallas, but I think that ultimately this could work for the Cowboys. I think Dak Prescott is primed to have one of his best seasons yet. Their defense is still really good. I think this Cowboys team is going to be better than people expect them to be, in spite of the fact they lost to the Packers last year the way they did. And I think they're just a smidge better than the Eagles.
Interesting. I don't know if I would have put them over the Eagles. I know the Eagles, they lost Jason Kelsey, but they have the other 4 O-linemen, and their O-line's always been elite. And their defense definitely struggled down the stretch last year, just pretty much fell apart. So I don't blame you here. And I'm going to say, I'm going to agree with you, only because I told you, and don't judge me, I watched the America's Sweethearts, the Dallas cheerleader 6 or 7 episode documentary,
Yep.
and I am much more appreciative of these cheerleaders and what they got to go through. So, all right, let's give it to the Cowboys. Jessica says she had the Bengals at 9. She has the Eagles at 10. And Weston saying, yeah, the Rams are only one injury to Stafford or Cup, and their season is toast.
Well, Weston, the same can be said for the Chiefs. The Chiefs are one injury away from to Patrick Mahomes from being toast.
I think yeah,
one injury away from being to Tua Tagovailoa from being toast. It's not. The Bills are one injury away to Josh Allen from being toast. It's if we're doing this based on injuries, then we're doing this wrong. Honestly, this is all things being equal.
Yeah, agree. And I think you gotta toss out the quarterback there, because like you said, any team loses their quarterback, especially the elite teams or the elite quarterbacks.
Yeah,
huge hit on any team. But losing Cup, Cup's been. I think he was pretty healthy last year, but he had a few years.
Healthy, but he was in and out of the lineup, and Puka Nacua stepped up, Kyron Williams stepped up. It wasn't, Cup was still hurt at times last year, so it's not as though. And the Rams, I'm sure Jessica's thinking about this last year. The Rams were a team nobody wanted to play in the postseason. They were a dangerous-looking team going into the playoffs last year. So, in spite of the injuries, if Matthew Stafford's healthy, that team has a chance.
Yeah. All right. Well, this was a tough one for me, Keith, and I'm not doing this to spite you or to upset you, because I will say your Dolphins are right around here where I was going to bring them in.
Yeah.
But I looked at this team and I'm concerned about the injuries on the defensive line. We may not see Jalen Phillips or who's the other guy they lost?
Bradley Chubb.
But Bradley Chubb, we may not see him. I mean, Phillips has the better chance of coming back. And I know they picked up some guys that you feel pretty happy with. But again, they have a track team on the offensive side of the ball. But we've seen them struggle against good teams, even with that elite track team. So this may surprise you a little bit, but I just saw a lot of good stuff going on there in Atlanta. So I'm going to bring the Falcons on the board here. Are you wishing you had a power move right now?
No. I think right now is where the Eagles go off the board.
Okay.
I think it's finally time for the Eagles to go off the board. If you watch the AFC Summit last year, I was predicting the Eagles' demise weeks before it happened.
You were.
I wasn't feeling it with that team. And I didn't expect them to fall as hard as they did. That was kind of unprecedented, the way they just fell off a cliff. But Jessica brought up an interesting point earlier where she said that Nick Sirianni might have lost that Eagles locker room. I tend to agree with her. I think that through comments that Jalen Hurts has made this offseason and just the general feeling of this team, they lost 2 leaders on either side of the ball. Fletcher Cox retired, Jason Kelce retired. This is a team that if they don't get off to a fast start, this could go off the rails just as precipitously as it did last season. Which is why I took the Cowboys over them, which is why I have the Eagles lower than a lot of people do. I live here in Philly, and I hear talk about the Eagles all the time, and people are mostly positive. They're mostly optimistic, but there's this dark cloud that's hanging over them after last season, and I don't think that they're out from underneath of it. And yeah, they brought in Saquon Barkley, but that's not the cure to what ails them. If there's discord between head coach and quarterback, their season's doomed. And I don't like Kellen Moore as a coordinator. I didn't like him in Dallas. I didn't like him in Los Angeles last year. And, to me, Kellen Moore's a guy who has a philosophy on how he's going to run his offense, and that's it. And I don't like that he doesn't adapt to his players' strengths. And the same thing could be said to Vic Fangio, who was the Dolphins defensive coordinator last year. He didn't adapt to the Dolphins players' strengths. And these are two guys that are just too rigid. And I don't know that they're the right fit for this Eagles team. It's just, I don't have a good feeling about this team going into this season, in spite of all their talent.
I wouldn't have blamed you if you would have taken the Rams, honestly, because the Rams are so balanced on offense. I think they're the most balanced offense last year. And we already said they're one of the best coached. So I wouldn't have been surprised, and especially with losing Jason Kelsey and the defense just kind of fallen on their face last year. So, but we'll see. We'll see. So,
well, I kind of wanted the Cowboys and Eagles right next to each other, just to kind of illustrate how there's a razor thin margin between these two teams. It's anybody's guess who's going to take this division. So they should be right next to each other.
I'm not going to make you wait any longer, Keith. Your Dolphins.
Hey, there they are.
Jumping up the board here. Here they come. And they are in the discussion for power ranking number 12, sir.
Give me the Rams here. Tip of the cap to you, Jessica. They're finally off the board. I do love the Rams. I love the Rams. I love what they did last year. I love that they were a team that nobody wanted to mess with in the postseason. And I love the way they're coached. Sean McVay is one hell of a coach. Kyle Brandt in the Mina Kimes episode said that Sean McVay is the best coach in the NFL right now. Not going there, but I will say he's top 5. And I love Sean McVay as a head coach, and I love Matthew Stafford as a quarterback. And they lost Aaron Donald, but I think – and that's a huge loss. That loss and we talked about Kobe Turner last year, how great of a season he had. He probably doesn't have as great a season as he has if Aaron Donald isn't eating all those double teams. So, that's something that we need to consider here. But I think that they're a team that's going to, yet again, they're going to be a team that nobody wants to mess with as the season goes on, especially if Matthew Stafford's able to stay healthy.
Yeah, definitely not. All right. This one probably no surprise for anyone. I think what a strong year they had with a quarterback that they found on his couch, and again another question mark at quarterback here. But I'm gonna bring the Browns into the picture right now. Cleveland Browns, stellar defense. There's really no weaknesses there. Deshaun Watson, again, is that wild card. I mean, the Deshaun experiment hasn't been panning out too well so far, Keith. But at number 13 for the power ranking, you have your Dolphins, you have the Falcons, and with Kirk Cousins, and then you have the Browns.
I don't like the Browns nearly as much as everybody else does. I don't like Deshaun Watson. I don't like what he's been since he's come back. I do like what the Falcons are putting together down in Atlanta. And I'll take the Falcons here. I think that they have the skill position players. They're another team that kind of like the Jets, kind of like the Browns last year, that felt like they were a quarterback away from really competing. If the Falcons have Kirk Cousins last season, they win that division easily. They coast to an NFC South crown. And Kirk Cousins, and now their first round pick, I questioned, and I'm going to question it because Michael Penix just seemed like a luxury pick there. They should have gone defense because their defense hasn't been great, but they kind of made up for it by going with Ruka Ahoroho. In the second round, they went with Braylon Trice in the third round. They really tried to beef up their defense in subsequent picks after the Michael Penix pick. So they have an elite corner in A.J. Terrell. They have a running back in Bijan Robinson. Tyler Algier is still there. Drake London, Kyle Pitts. There's plenty of talent on this team. They just need a point guard like Kirk Cousins to kind of get the job done. And I see them winning the NFC South this season. I see them doing it pretty easily.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to mention some of the stars on offense that have. You said Drake London, Bijan Robinson, just a stud. Darnell Mooney and Rondale Moore, and then of course Kyle Pitts. So lots of weapons there for Kirk Cousins. So I like your pick there, 100%. Let's see here. Let me look at my list to see who's next on the board that I'm bringing up. All right, this one. I really like this one.
Okay.
Well, I like them on paper, and again, I don't think they're gonna. I mean, if they get the number 14 spot, that means they're probably a playoff team. And let me just double check my sheet here to make sure I don't want to pivot, because now I'm having some second guessing here coming on. So let's see here. No, I'm gonna stick with them. I'm gonna bring on the Chicago Bears.
I thought you were going that direction.
Oh my goodness. Caleb Williams could not be set up for more success
Yeah.
in his rookie year. Dude, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, rookie Rome Odunze. Oh my goodness. I'm telling you, he couldn't have been set up for more success. And, the Bears are ready. Chicago has been dying for this. So again, it just comes down to, of course, they have a new OC, which is going to be a struggle, right? You got a new rookie quarterback and a new OC. So, but anyhow, there they are. Dolphins, Browns, Bears for you, Keith.
All right. I think the Dolphins have fallen too far, Mike. No, I'm not too far. They've fallen far enough.
Gotcha.
This is where the Dolphins go off the board. My one question about the Dolphins is whether or not they can win in December and January. My one question is their offensive line. So there's the two questions. But they're kind of one and the same. Now, I will say this, and I don't love saying this, but it's the truth. There's no greater insult you can give to a football team by saying that they're soft. But I call them like I see them. I call a spade a spade. The Dolphins have been soft the last 2 seasons. They've been a soft football team. They've been a team that runs over the Denver Broncos and the Carolina Panthers and the New York Giants of the world, and then loses in spectacular fashion to teams like the Ravens and the Chiefs. The real, they lost to the Bills, they lost to the Chiefs, they lost to the Ravens. They beat the Cowboys, they lost to the Eagles. They lost to a bunch of these teams. They play the Rams this season. That's going to be an interesting game, but they lost to a bunch of these teams that are above them in the power rankings. And the Dolphins have the talent to beat those teams. That's the thing that kills me about them. I've talked about them ad nauseum. If you want to hear me talk about them more, tune into the AFC Summit on Tuesday. But I love the Dolphins' talent, and I think that they can be much higher on this list. They can certainly be much higher on this list. They have the talent to be much higher on this list. They just need to prove that they can do it. That's it.
Yeah, I agree. Let me see here. Jessica, she had the Eagles at 10, the Browns at 11, Watson's the big question mark, the Dolphins at 12, and the Steelers at 13. So, yes, Steelers, one of my favorite coaches, and but we'll get to them. They're a little bit lower than 13 for me, Jessica, but let's go to this next team here. Look, I said we'd do top 20 to conserve time, and here we are. We're coming up on the hour already, and we still got a few more to go. Just, I knew when you bring in the live, which we love, it might run us a little longer. Mina Kimes has been doing this with her guest in about an hour, right at an hour with both of them. But hey, we're Nickel City Mafia. We do it a little differently. All right, so let's go here. Next time on board. This one, Jessica, I'd be curious what you think. You were talking about, this team falling apart down the stretch last year. And I'm going to bring them on the board here. Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yes. All right.
We have the Browns, the Bears, and the Jaguars.
So when I said that I thought the Texans aren't a lock to win the AFC South, I had the Jacksonville Jaguars in mind. I think they're a better team than they showed last year. And their late season collapse was due to a lot of things. I think Trevor Lawrence was just walking wounded. I'm taking the Jaguars here. I like the Jaguars. I like Their coach, I like their quarterback more than most. He just got paid this off season. Um, you know, before Tua, so now that just drives the type price tag up for Tua. Um, but no, I like the Jaguars. And I think if you want to see how good the Jaguars can be, look at that game film against the Buffalo Bills last season. That game they played in London. The Jaguars played a really solid football game, and it wasn't so much the Bills losing that game. It was the Jaguars winning. The Jaguars played really good football on both sides of the ball. They ran the ball well. They have Travis Etienne at running back. They had Brian Thomas and Christian Kirk at wide receiver. And then Evan Ingram at tight end. They have the skill position players to do this. And Josh Allen on the Jaguars, he just changed his name to Joshua.
I don't know the second part of it.
Allen.
Joshua something Allen.
Yeah, so he's no longer Josh Allen. So, but this Jaguars team, they're better than people think. And Jessica, I can understand what you're saying about the Colts. The AFC South is really up for grabs this season. It's up for grabs. But I actually like the Jaguars a little bit more than I like the Texans this season, just because I see the Texans regressing, and I think the Jaguars are going to kind of pull a Texans, what the Texans did last year. They're going to come up on some teams. They're going to surprise some teams with how good they are.
Yeah, I want to remind everyone, if you're new or not even new, for the folks that are out there in the chat, if you can just slam that like button for us, we appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And then if you're new to the channel, drop a nickel. Like, Keith, I want you to get this right, because you said it last week. You're like, I think Mike says drop a nickel on the like. No, it's drop a nickel on the subscribe button.
On the subscribe button.
Completely free. And then smash whatever you want to say that like. It really helps us. I'm like, how long has Keith? He's been on our shows. How long has he heard me say this?
Drop a brain fart.
On that subscribe button. All right. Without any further ado, Jessica, yes, they didn't fall down the board too far for me. Let's see here. Where are they? Why am I not seeing them? Oh, there they are. Yes. The Pittsburgh Steelers coming into play at ranking number 16. So you have the Browns, the Bears, the Steelers.
So in truth, Mike, if I still had my power play, I would have used it last time on the Steelers, because I like what the Steelers are building down in Pittsburgh, out in Pittsburgh. I like the addition of Russell Wilson. I think he got kind of a raw deal in Denver the last 2 seasons. I think him and Sean Payton never really were on the same page. And Nathaniel Hackett was an absolute he was just an absolute disaster as a head coach out there. I think Russell Wilson he still has some gas left in the tank. Mm-hmm. And you're going to see the Steelers team as they're going to look a lot like the Seahawks teams that he won with out in Seattle. They're going to run the ball. They're going to play good defense. They're going to ask Russell Wilson to not lose them football games and to kind of make enough plays to help them win rather than be their entire offense, which is kind of what they were doing with Russell Wilson towards the end of his tenure in Seattle, and which is kind of what they were doing with Denver last season, the last 2 seasons, really. So I think the Steelers are going to surprise some teams. I think they're better than the Browns. And I think that while all 4 teams in the AFC North can say we have legitimate playoff aspirations, I think the Steelers are a notch above the Browns.
I like the pick. I really do. Again, Mike Tomlin, one of the best coaches. Love that guy. Hasn't had a losing season in 8, 9. Of course, it hasn't gone very far. And you can look at the other side of the coin. Hasn't gone very far into the playoffs, but just a well-coached team. Stellar defense. Najee Harris, Jalen Warren, George Pickens, Van Jefferson. They got their rookie Roman Wilson, little speedster that they drafted this year, Pat Freiermuth. So good offense. It all comes down to if Russell's going to be Russell again or anywhere near Russell.
Yeah.
And
But Russell was at his best, Mike, when he
yeah,
was just handing the ball off to Marshawn Lynch and letting the defense win them football games.
yeah, and they have a very good running attack. So I love
Yeah.
the pick there. Good stuff. All right, let's see who's next on my board. Ooh, we're
This
getting down. We're
starting to get
getting
hard.
It is difficult. But all right, this might be a little surprise. Let's see here. This might be a little surprise because they lost a lot. But man, I love the guys they took in the draft. And of course, they got the new coach, the new toy, and that's going to
Mm-hmm.
be the Chargers. We're bringing the Chargers into the play here. Justin Herbert, they have their rookie from last year who struggled,
Mm-hmm.
and what's his name,
Quentin Johnson.
Quentin Johnson. They drafted Brandon Rice. I wanted Brandon Rice so bad.
Yeah.
They got him late, so good steal for them.
They
But
drafted Lad McConkey.
yeah, Lad McConkey. Yeah, nice pick there. So it's going to be a young group, and thank goodness you have a strong quarterback. Many think top 5, top 6 quarterback in the league thrown to these young guys, and then of course you've got the new coach.
Yeah.
Right. And by the way, I think that will that's why they're, to me, I brought him up here at 17.
Yeah.
Jim Harbaugh. So talk to me about who you like between the Browns, the Bears, and the Chargers.
I like the Chargers here, Mike.
Ooh,
I do.
All right.
I like the new coach. I like Jim Harbaugh, and he's going to bring a different identity to this Chargers team. It's going to be a Steelers type mentality: run the ball, play solid defense. That's what the Chargers are going to do. The last few seasons in Los Angeles, they've been a team that wasn't as good as the sum of their parts. You bring in a Khalil Mack, and you have a standout safety. What's his name again?
The Chargers?
Yeah, the standout safety on the Chargers. Went to Florida State. I can't.
Yeah, I can't. I don't know off the top of my head.
Either way, you have. They haven't been as good. They haven't been as good as some of their parts. They had Keenan Allen. They had Austin Eckler. Last season was a disastrous type season. I think Brandon Staley needed to be fired. Kellen Moore didn't do them any favors last year. He had Austin Eckler, who's great in space, and he ran Austin Eckler up the middle as though he was Ezekiel Elliott when Ezekiel Elliott was in Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
That's not how you handle an Austin Eckler. So I think what Jim Harbaugh did was, we're going to bring in J.K. Dobbins. We're going to bring in Gus Edwards. We're going to run the ball, and we're going to ask Justin Herbert to do just enough to help us win football games. When he was in San Francisco, he kind of resurrected that team. The 49ers weren't the juggernauts that we've known them to be. They were a bad football team for like a decade when Jim Harbaugh came in and kind of just reinvented things and revamped things, got the best out of Alex Smith that we'd seen to that point in his career. Frank Gore had a resurgence, and the 49ers were contenders again all of a sudden. I don't think the Chargers are going to be contenders necessarily this year, but they're going to be a tough out.
Yeah, well, I mean, Khalil Mack, he found the fountain of youth last year. So if he can, continue to drink from the fountain of youth, and then if Bosa, Bosa's so good, but he's so injured all the time, fighting through injuries, but he still had a very good year last year.
Yes.
So I want to say that I like the pick, but if it was me, I'd have the Browns over this team. I think the Browns are just so elite on defense.
Derwin James, by the way, was the safety I was talking about.
What was the safety?
Derwin James.
Oh, okay.
I can't believe I spaced on that.
That's all right, man. I have those moments all the time. It's called a senior moment, but nowhere near a senior moment. But yeah, so I like to pick 17. Jessica, you had them pretty high. You had them at 16. So we were pretty close in that one. Again, I don't know how many I've missed of yours, but I love that you're doing all these, Jessica. Thank you. She had 17 at the Jags, 18. Yeah, the Texans falling all the way down to 18. So let me bring in the next team here. We're getting down near the bottom here. Let's go. We're going to bring in the Colts into this mix. And Jessica had
um,
the Colts. Where did you have the? Did you have the Colts yet? No, I don't think she
15.
did.
She had the Colts at 15.
Oh, okay. All right, there we
Yeah.
go.
All right, give me the Browns here, Mike. I do love their defense. I just don't love their quarterback. And Amari Cooper's getting older. We don't know what to expect from Nick Chubb this season. He just got his knee absolutely destroyed last year, which also in turn destroyed my fantasy team. He was my first round pick last year in my fantasy league. So, but we don't know what to. Their biggest question mark is Deshaun Watson, and he was a Pro Bowl player. Looked like a top 5 quarterback when he was with Houston. And then he takes the season off and all the allegations against him. He hasn't been the same player for the Browns. Do you blame Kevin Stefanski? What do you blame for that? I don't know. But the thing is, unless Deshaun Watson kind of gets right, there's only so far the Browns can go. It's telling when a 38-year-old quarterback who was eating chips on the couch comes in and outplays you.
Hey, he's available still, isn't he? They can pick him back up again.
No, I think I think Colts back up.
Did someone take him?
Yeah, he's with the Colts now, I believe.
Interesting.
I believe he is. Let's Joe Flacco. Yes, he's with the Colts. He's their backup.
Yeah, so their glaring problem is wide receiver, right? Defense can keep you sort of like Jets. They were the number 1 defense. Cleveland was, by the way, last year. They can keep you in any game. Where they're going to struggle, they have Amari Cooper. Mm-hmm. He'll be 30 years old this year. And other than that, they don't have, let me see who they're slotted to have starting on a wide receiver. Okay, so they have Jerry Jeudy, who they traded for. And they have Elijah Moore. And I do like their tight end, David Njoku.
Yeah.
I always have a problem with his name. But I think that's again, and with his stellar defense and Nick Chubb. Now, Nick Chubb, he was also injured. I don't know, was it earlier in the year? He had a bad season-ending injury, didn't he?
Who's that?
Nick Chubb, the running back.
Yeah, Nick Chubb. I just talked about him where he got his knee destroyed. So behind Chubb, you have Jerome Ford, who did an admirable job for them last year. Naheem Hines came over from Buffalo. There's a reason I let the Browns fall this far. It's just I don't love their skill position players. I don't love Deshaun Watson. If Deshaun Watson kind of shows that he's the quarterback he was in Houston, the Browns can jump up this rankings. They can jump up 10 spots if we're being honest about it. But, I haven't seen that to this point. And again, Mike, with a 30-year-old Amari Cooper and Nick Chubb coming off a devastating knee injury, Jerry Jeudy, who's been somewhat of a bust thus far in his career, how much faith can you really have in a team that offensively is kind of playing with one hand tied behind their backs?
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's move on to 19. The next group team I'm going to bring in is the Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield led Bucks.
Okay.
So you're at number 19. Your options are the Bears, the Colts, or the Bucks.
This is tough. Give me the Colts here, Mike.
Okay.
People forget they were a dropped pass last year by Zach Moss from making the playoffs last year. They were damn close, and that was with Gardner Minshew, who I shouldn't knock them for that because Gardner Minshew had a nice season for them. But Anthony Richardson has so much higher of a ceiling, and he offers them so much more. Now, the Colts have a great offensive line, probably the best offensive line in the NFL. And they have, decent skill position players. They have Michael Pittman, who, just got a new contract. Now, who else did they bring in this offseason? I believe, let's see. They brought in another wide receiver. Yeah, so they drafted Adonai Mitchell in the first round. That's going to help. Alec Pierce is coming back. At tight end, Jelani Woods, Jonathan Taylor's their running back.
Mhm.
They have decent skill position players. They play solid defense. Shane Steichen's an underrated coach. Uh, it's the Eagles' offense wasn't the same last year without him, and I think he adds something to what the Colts do. If Anthony Richardson can stay healthy, if he can somehow stay off the injury report, it's going to require him to slide more, maybe run a little less. The Colts can surprise some teams this year. The Colts, Jessica likes them to win the AFC South.
Nice.
I can see it. I can definitely see a path where the Colts win the AFC South.
Yeah, I forget. Somebody actually commented in one of the shows we did. I think it was who's the biggest threat to the Chiefs. Right, we had that last Sunday, and I had some people coming in saying the Colts give, now Weston, you'll have to tell me if this is true, or Chad, that the Colts give the Chiefs a hard time every time. So
yeah,
just putting that out there. And that was just from somebody who put a comment out there and was pretty strong on the fact that they believe the Colts should be up there.
I could see the Colts winning the AFC South and giving some teams some fits. It all depends on Anthony Richardson. I think I didn't love what I saw from him last year, but he was a rookie. There's Anthony Richardson, to me, coming out of the draft was probably he was the rawest quarterback in that draft. He shouldn't have played. Gardner Minshew should have started from day one last season, and Anthony Richardson should have just sat and learned. Him getting injured when he got injured last year might have been a blessing in disguise, because that's what he was forced to do once he got hurt. Athletically, physically, he's an absolute freak. He's Cam Newton with a stronger arm. Wow. But he's faster than Cam Newton. He's just as big, faster, stronger arm. He is a freak. But that needs to be harnessed, and it was probably best that he got hurt when he got hurt. I know that sounds kind of crappy of me to say, but he needed to sit and learn behind a consummate professional like Gardner Minshew.
Yeah, and I don't think it's bad at all what you're saying there. I agree with you. Number 20 spot. Let's bring in this guy here, this final team, and to round out our top 20 power rankings. I want to bring in the Seattle Seahawks.
Okay.
So you got the Bears for the 20th spot, the Bears, the Bucks, and the Seahawks. For those just listening on their mobile devices, they don't always see the screen.
Yeah.
And then I'll recap the top 20, and then we're going to bring in, just have you quickly tell us of the remaining teams, what two teams you think could rise up the power rankings if things go right for them. So number 20 spot, lock it in for us, Keith.
Well, Mike, you brought the Bears up way early for me, and it's still early. I like the Bucks.
Wow.
I like the Bucks.
All right.
As far as the Seahawks go, Geno Smith's still their quarterback, and he didn't play very well for them last year. He was okay, and I think that's kind of Geno Smith's ceiling at this point. He's just okay. And as far as the Bears go, I don't love Caleb Williams, and until he proves it to me, he can have all the weapons in the world. He can have Jerry Rice and Terrell Owens running routes for him, and I'm still not convinced. I'm not convinced that I haven't seen him play, and honestly, I didn't love him coming out of college. My favorite quarterback coming out of this year's class was Drake May, and it was not Caleb Williams. So look, as far as the Bucs go, they had a nice season last year. Baker Mayfield had a resurgent season. They still have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin running routes for them. Rashad White's a decent running back. They drafted another running back. I forget who it was, but they've done some nice things. They've played solid defense. Antoine Winfield is a top 5 safety.
Yeah.
Um, and they're well coached. Now they lost Dave Canales to the Panthers, which might be a big loss for them because the Bucks coach is not an offensive guy. He's he's not an offensive guy at all. But I think there's still enough talent on this team for them to maybe contend with the Falcons a little bit, maybe give them a little bit of trouble. They are the NFC South champions. They won a playoff game last year. They beat the Eagles. They're still a decent football team. I just don't know how much to expect for them, how little to expect from them. They're kind of a mystery to me, but I like them better than the Bears. I like them better than the Seahawks.
Okay. All right. Well, I want you to start thinking about those two teams outside the top 20 that you would bring into the mix and think could have a good year if certain things click for them. So let's go through I'm going to recap while you're thinking about that. KC in at number 1, San Francisco number 2. And again, for those that are watching this on the rewatch, I'd appreciate you guys putting in some comments, letting us know where we are wrong, where you disagree. And, let's get into it. Lions at number 3. Buffalo Bills at number 4. Now, listen, you're going to be like, oh, this is a Bills channel. You're a homer. Hey, go over to Mina Kimes and check out her show with Kyle Brandt. She got him at number 5. So take it up with her as well. I mean, they got like hundreds of thousands of subscribers. So, but anyway, not a homer here. I do believe in the Bills. I put out a show this previous week as to why I think people are just overlooking them. Bills at number 4. Ravens at number 5. Packers at 6. Bengals at 7, Jets at number 8. This may surprise some people. I guess you and I, Keith, with the AFC East Summit, we hear a lot about this team. And if you really look closely, we actually did our gridiron battle against them. And on paper, they definitely look better than a lot of the league. I mean, PFF has them as the 3rd best roster, but there's still a lot to be seen when it comes to Aaron Rodgers and what that's going to look like. But we got them at number 8. And so that was an interesting one because I brought him into the mix. I did not think you were going to take him here, but I like the pick. Then we got the Texans, Cowboys at 10, Philly, Eagles at 11. We got the Rams coming in at 12, Falcons at 13, your Miami Dolphins at 14, the Jaguars at 15, Pittsburgh Steelers taking the 16th ranking, the Chargers, people might be surprised here at this one, 17. Then we got the Browns at 18, we got the Colts at 19, and we got the Buccaneers at 20. So, Keith, this ran a little longer than I thought, but we have 2 teams now. But the remaining teams down there at the bottom, what are those 2 teams that you could see maybe if things go right? I mean, Caleb Williams, I don't know. I'm just trying to put that out there.
Well, no. I mean, let's toss the Bears up there, and let's talk about the Bears a little bit because let's talk about the Bears a little bit because Caleb Williams is he's a special talent, and nobody's going to deny that. But the problem I have with the Bears is I don't know what Caleb Williams is going to be, and I didn't love him coming out of the draft. I don't love his mentality. I don't love his I'm going to be me. I'm going to be different. If the Bears start losing games, that's not going to play in an NFL locker room. It's just not. You need to be a leader, and you need to be somebody that people can count on. And Caleb Williams might turn into that guy. He has the talent, and Jessica brings up a good point. The Bears O-line is a question mark.
Yeah.
So they have Rome Odunze, they have Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, they have Cole Kmet at tight end, DeAndre Swift they brought in to be their running back this offseason. Yep. They have all the skill position players, but their quarterback, their O-line, they're a question mark to me, and they had to drop, I think. But if Caleb Williams is as good as his talent suggests he can be, the Bears can certainly rise here.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that one. So good job. Yeah, their O-line's been they had a big injury to who was the guy there?
Tevin Coleman?
No, it was one of their offensive linemen. Let's see here. Who was it?
Not Tevin Coleman. Tevin
let's see.
Uh,
Who was it? Maybe I'm thinking another one here. Oh, Darnell Wright, offensive tackle.
Okay. Yeah.
So he was the first rounder they took in 2023.
Tevin Jenkins. Yeah.
No, Darnell Wright is who
Yeah.
I'm talking about. He had a decent rookie season, but a leap to start him would be a huge boom. So he's an X factor for them in 2024 to help that line, like you said, that struggled. But they have a nice, like I said, if you're going to set up a rookie quarterback, he's going to start day one to give him these weapons right off the bat. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun team. I don't see them maybe, the right around the 9-win mark.
Yeah.
But you just never know when you
They're
put.
the clear third best team in that division.
Yeah. He's just saying. I don't think Bates will fix their O line. Yeah, and they have the defensive side of things. They got Tremaine Edmonds from the Buffalo Bills a few years ago. I mean, they got Montez Sweat.
Yes, Montez Sweat. They traded for him last year from the Commanders. There's a bunch of guys like Jalen Johnson's a decent player. Jaquan Brisker, Kevin Byard wasn't great with the Eagles last year, but he might have a resurgence with the Bears. They're just. I don't think they're ready yet.
Yeah,
I'll say that, and they have the skill. The trading for Keenan Allen. That's a team that says, okay, we're ready to compete. And I just don't think they're there yet.
Yeah. All right. 2 more. We got 22nd spot. We're going to finish this right at the 1 hour, 30-minute mark. So we got about 3.5 minutes. I have actually 2 questions. Who's taking the number 22 spot and who's going to finish dead last?
Okay. The Cardinals, I like at 22.
All right. I like that pick. Yes.
The Cardinals, I like at 22. They were a different team once they got their quarterback back last year. Once Kyler Murray came back from his torn ACL the previous season, once he came back, they were a different football team. They upset the Eagles. They drafted Marvin Harrison Jr. in the first round. Yep. They have a decent offensive line. They've invested some draft picks in their offensive line. James Conner, you could do better, you could do worse, but they're a team that's up and coming. Trey McBride is an up and coming tight end. This is a team that, they're well coached with Jonathan Gannon. They could turn some heads this year. They could honestly sneak into that last wild card spot in the NFC.
Wow, big call there. Yeah. Well, the Bills get a look at them in week 1. So that's gonna be interesting. I'm glad we are catching them early before they get things worked out over there. So, all right, and then the last question, the most important question: who is going to be getting the first overall pick in the 2025 draft? Who is it going to be, Keith?
It's the Denver Broncos to me.
Broncos.
I think I think that they are just, we've talked about it in Discord a little bit, Mike. Like, Courtland Sutton has to be looking around like, can you please trade me? Like, this is a disaster right here. Who's going to start a quarterback? It's going to be Jarrett Stidham. It's going to be Bo Nix. Is it going to be Zach Wilson? None of them are very good options. It's just, they're going to be brutal this year. It's going to be a brutal season in Denver. Sean Payton, I think he should survive. I think he's got enough of a resume to survive and kind of help this team rebuild. But, if Bo Nix goes into the season as the third quarterback and doesn't see the field, and you don't see Jarrett Stidham goes out there and starts a bunch of games, and Zach Wilson, and this season is just going to go off the rails fast for this team. So if you're playing suicide pools, those survivor pools, look to see who the Broncos are playing and probably take that team. That's my advice to you people out there.
Yeah, Jessica, I totally agree with you here. Hoping the Vikings finish last. Bills have their 2nd round pick. Oh man, that would be fantastic. Well, Keith, we did it. Well, we didn't quite do it. We did it in 1 hour 30.
Yeah.
I don't know how Mina and her teams did it, but I think you went into a little more detail, which I think was good. So I hope everyone enjoyed it out there. Again, I would like to, see everyone in the comments after Absolutely. They catch this on the rewatch. I guess if I was to look real quickly scanning this, I got like 20 seconds before I say goodbye. People might have a heartache with the Bills. Not me, of course, but they're going to call me out on that. I just know it. Ravens slipping to 5 might be surprising people. Jets at 8. Green Bay as high as 6, maybe. I think everything else, Chargers maybe at 17, a little bit of question mark.
Yeah,
but
that
overall,
was mostly coaching.
Yeah, overall, I think we did a great job. Anyhow, I'm going to end it here. Thank you, Keith. We'll see everyone soon. Go Bills.
Fins up.